The Galactic Council had seen many strange things across the endless void of space, but never before had they encountered something like this. It had appeared on their long-range scanners just days ago, a massive, lifeless warship drifting at the edge of their territory. The ship was unlike anything recorded in their vast archives. No signals came from within, no distress beacons, no life signs, only a cold, silent behemoth of steel floating through the void. At first, the Council believed it was a derelict, an abandoned relic of some long-forgotten war, but as they studied its structure, a terrifying realization began to creep into their minds. This was not an ordinary ship. It was a war machine, built for destruction, and worse, it bore the unmistakable signature of a species they had only heard rumors about: humanity. The humans were an anomaly in the grand order of the galaxy, a species so young yet so unpredictable that many civilizations had chosen to avoid them altogether. They had no known allies, no grand empire stretching across the stars, and yet they survived. Whispers of their wars and their brutal efficiency in battle had reached the Council before, but no one had taken them seriously. Humans were primitive, reckless, and far too emotional to be considered a real threat to the great civilizations of the galaxy. At least, that was the belief until now. Because this warship, silent as it was, spoke volumes of what the humans were truly capable of. The Council wasted no time in assembling a team of their most brilliant scientists, engineers, and military strategists. A fleet of research vessels was dispatched to intercept the drifting warship. Their mission: simple: analyze, document, and determine if this vessel posed a threat. As their ships approached, the first close-range scan sent a chill through every analyst in the control room. The hull of the warship was heavily armored, battle-scarred, yet still intact. Deep, jagged wounds ran along its exterior, evidence of unimaginable battles fought and survived. Whatever had attacked this ship had failed to destroy it. The idea that such a vessel could withstand that level of punishment was unsettling. But what truly disturbed the researchers was the composition of the armor itself. It was primitive by galactic standards, composed of reinforced metals rather than the advanced energy-shielded alloys most civilizations used. And yet, it had endured. The implications were horrifying. Human technology was not superior, but it was durable, relentless, and brutally efficient. When the boarding teams entered the ship, the silence was oppressive. Flickering lights barely illuminated the long metallic corridors. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of something unnatural. Their footsteps echoed through the abandoned halls, each sound amplifying the growing sense of unease. The ship's interior was a stark contrast to the elegant, sleek designs of most galactic fleets. This was not a vessel built for comfort or luxury, it was a machine of war in its purest form. The walls were lined with weapon mounts, emergency repair stations, and hardened security checkpoints. Every inch of the ship served a single-purpose survival. As they moved deeper, the researchers uncovered signs of battle inside the ship itself. Burn marks from energy weapons scorched the bulkheads. There were blast doors that had been sealed shut and forced open again with sheer brute strength. What had happened here? Was there a mutiny? An enemy boarding attempt? There were no bodies, no remains, nothing to explain why the ship had been abandoned. It was as if the crew had vanished into thin air. The unsettling mystery only grew worse as they reached the command center. The control panels were still active, flickering with unknown human script. The lead scientist, a pale-skinned Xyronian named Velcor, hesitated before activating the main console. The ship responded immediately. A low hum vibrated through the structure as systems flickered to life. Data streams poured onto the screens, but before the researchers could decipher them, something else happened, something that sent a cold chill through every being present. A message, encoded in a simple, chilling transmission, appeared on every screen. One word, repeated in human language, over and over. Analyzing. Panic rippled through the boarding crew. The warship was not dead. It had been watching. Waiting. The analysts scrambled to shut it down, but it was too late. The ship had already activated its security protocols. Doors slammed shut, lights flickered from dim to blood red, and a deep, mechanical voice echoed through the corridors in a language no one present understood, yet the intent was unmistakable. A warning. Back on the Council Central Station, alarms blared as reports flooded in from the research fleet. Velker's voice trembled as he transmitted his final message before communications were severed. "This is no ordinary warship. This is a test and we just triggered it." And then, silence. The Galactic Council watched in horror as their entire research fleet, dozens of ships, was wiped from the scanners in an instant. The warship, which had once been drifting lifelessly, was now fully operational. It turned, its engines flaring to life as it began moving not away, but toward them. The warship loomed in the darkness, its massive frame casting an eerie shadow over the alien research vessels still circling cautiously around it. Its structure was unlike anything the Galactic Council had encountered before, an enormous silent juggernaut that carried the scars of countless battles. The exterior was a patchwork of reinforced metal, crude yet impossibly resilient. The engineers and scientists tasked with analyzing it had never seen such a strange design. Other species relied on sleek, advanced materials, shields, and automated defenses to protect their fleets. But this ship, it was built differently. It did not rely on elegant solutions. It was a fortress, a brute force weapon that had survived sheer destruction time and time again. Every dent, every burned panel, every jagged tear in the hull was a testament to battles it had fought and won. And that realization terrified them more than anything. As the boarding team ventured deeper into its corridors, the overwhelming sense of dread grew heavier. The ship was a maze of reinforced walls, weapons racks, and maintenance tunnels that twisted like veins through its body. There was no unnecessary luxury, no grand control chambers or decorative designs. Everything served a purpose. It was clear that this ship had been designed not for comfort, but for survival. The dim emergency lights flickered, casting long shadows as the team cautiously advanced, their instruments scanning every inch of the metallic behemoth. Unlike the smooth, polished interiors of their own ships, which gleamed with advanced alloys and soft lighting, the human warship was harsh, functional, and cold. The deeper they went, the more they realized the sheer brutality of its construction. The walls were lined with emergency repair kits, ration storage, and weapon compartments at every turn. This wasn't just a warship, it was a battleground in itself, prepared for combat at all times. Every corridor was designed for defense, with choke points, reinforced doors, and turrets positioned in strategic locations. It became clear that even if enemy forces managed to board, they would be walking into a death trap. It was a ship meant to fight until nothing was left standing. The realization sent a wave of unease through the team. The species that had built this ship did not believe in surrender. As they reached the command center, the ship's internal systems began activating on their own. Consoles flickered to life, filling the room with cryptic human symbols. Data streamed across the screens in patterns that made no sense to the alien analysts. But one thing was clear: the ship was watching them. One of the researchers, a cautious and seasoned Keldarian named Dralik, attempted to interface with the system. Their technology should have been able to override any primitive controls, but the moment he connected, a surge of information flooded his translator. What he saw sent a chill through his core. Battle logs. Hundreds of them. Every encounter this ship had ever fought, recorded in brutal, uncompromising detail. The Galactic Council had expected to find primitive combat tactics, crude weaponry, and predictable patterns of engagement. Instead, they found something horrific. The logs displayed battle after battle, each more devastating than the last. The humans did not fight like any other species in the galaxy. They did not retreat when overwhelmed. They did not negotiate when outnumbered. They did not surrender when faced with certain death. They adapted, adjusted, and retaliated with terrifying efficiency. The logs detailed instances where human warships had been outgunned, surrounded, or heavily damaged, yet still emerged victorious. They exploited weaknesses in enemy formations with brutal precision, sacrificing entire sections of their own ships to ensure a kill. In one battle, a human fleet had deliberately rammed their own vessels into an enemy mothership, detonating their reactors in a desperate yet successful maneuver to eliminate a superior force. It was not strategy. It was war in its purest form. Dralik's hands trembled as he scrolled through the final logs. The most recent battle was recorded just before the ship had gone silent. A lone human warship, surrounded by an overwhelming enemy fleet, cut off from reinforcements and facing inevitable destruction. The aliens had assumed the humans would try to flee, attempt to negotiate, or activate a distress signal. Instead, the logs revealed something unthinkable. The ship had gone dark deliberately. It had not been defeated, it had allowed itself to be found. The AI aboard the vessel had shut down non-essential systems, powered down its distress beacons, and entered a dormant state. It was waiting. The aliens had not discovered this ship by accident. It had been left behind as bait. The research team stumbled back in horror as the realization sank in. This was a test. A warning. The humans had wanted someone to find their warship, to study it, to see what it was capable of. And now that the Galactic Council had taken the bait, the consequences would soon follow. A sudden sound echoed through the ship, a low mechanical hum, rising steadily in volume. The screens began shifting, displaying a new message, simple yet terrifying. Transmission complete. Dralik's breath caught in his throat. The ship had just sent out a signal. Back at the Council's central command, alarms erupted across every major station. Long-range sensors picked up energy signatures, hundreds of them, moving fast. The analysts frantically ran calculations, hoping, praying, that it was just a malfunction. But the readings were undeniable. The stars were shifting, the darkness breaking apart as human warships emerged from the void. They had received the message. They had seen what the Council had done. And now they were coming. Panic spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Every leader, scientist, and strategist who had seen the warship's data logs sat frozen in fear. The humans were not just another warlike species, they were something far worse. Every battle recorded in the logs revealed a terrifying truth. Humans did not just fight to win. They fought to survive, and when they did, they ensured their enemies never got another chance. The Council had long believed that warfare followed certain rules. Civilized species preferred strategic withdrawals, political negotiations, or, in the worst cases, controlled conflicts that minimized unnecessary destruction. But the humans? They had no such limitations. Their warships' battle records proved that they treated every conflict as if it were their last, using every possible method to secure victory, no matter the cost. There was no hesitation in their actions, no morality in their strategies, only ruthless efficiency. And the most horrifying part? It worked. Dralik and his team continued their desperate analysis, scrolling through endless battle logs, trying to find a pattern, some weakness that would explain how humanity could be stopped. But instead, every log revealed only more horror. In one battle, a human fleet had faced an enemy 5 times its size. The logical course of action would have been surrender or escape, but the humans had done neither. Instead, they had trapped themselves inside an asteroid field, forcing the enemy to fight them in close quarters, where their brutal combat style could be used to full effect. They had lured their enemies into a death trap and then fought until the last human ship remained. There was no retreat, no diplomacy, no hesitation. It was victory or annihilation, and the humans had chosen victory. In another recorded battle, a human warship had suffered catastrophic damage, losing half its crew, its engines crippled beyond repair. Any other species would have activated an escape protocol, abandoning ship and hoping for rescue. But the humans had done something unthinkable. They had set their ship on a direct collision course with the enemy flagship, locking its remaining weapons on key structural weaknesses. The ship's captain, in his final transmission, had spoken just 3 words before impact, for the fallen. Moments later, the enemy flagship had been reduced to floating debris, and the battle had ended in a human victory, despite the complete loss of their own warship. The realization was chilling. Humans did not fight to protect themselves. They fought to destroy their enemies at any cost. The more Dralik read, the more his hands trembled. He had spent his life studying military strategies, analyzing war tactics from countless civilizations. He had always believed that war had its limits, that sentient species fought for a purposed territory, resources, power. But humans? They fought with a level of desperation and savagery that defied logic. They embraced destruction, using it as a weapon, never hesitating to sacrifice their own ships, their own soldiers, their own planets, if it meant ensuring that their enemies suffered more. And yet, they did not wage war out of greed or conquest. Every battle log told the same story. They fought only when they were threatened. Every war, every conflict, every horrifying act of violence was done in response to an attack, an invasion, or a betrayal. The humans did not seek to rule the galaxy. They simply refused to be defeated. A sudden alert jolted the research team back to the present. The warship systems had finished their transmission, and something had changed. The once dark screens were now filled with new data and incoming fleet. Human warships. Hundreds of them. They had received the message. They knew what the Council had done. And now they were coming. The panic inside the command center was immediate. Leaders shouted over one another. Military advisors scrambled to prepare a response, but there was no time. The humans had wasted none. Their fleet was already here, emerging from the void like vengeful wraiths. Dralik barely had time to process what was happening before the first impact reports flashed across the screens. The outer defense stations were being obliterated. No warning shots. No demands. No hesitation. The humans were attacking with full force. The Galactic Council's fleet scrambled to respond, deploying their finest warships to intercept the human armada. But it was already clear how this would end. The Council's fleets were built for deterrence, for defense. They had never faced an enemy like this. The humans did not engage in careful formations or strategic maneuvers. They dived straight into battle, their ships moving with terrifying precision, weapons firing in unrelenting waves. Alien warships that had never been defeated in battle were now disintegrating within minutes. The humans showed no mercy. Dralik could barely breathe as he watched the chaos unfold on the holographic displays. This was not war. This was annihilation. The humans were not fighting for victory. They were punishing the Council for its arrogance, for daring to study their warship, for treating them as mere subjects to be analyzed. The message was clear: humanity was not prey. They were not weak. They were the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and anyone who threatened them would suffer the consequences. And now, the Galactic Council was learning that truth the hard way. The control room of the Galactic Council was silent. A heavy, suffocating silence that clung to every being present. The screens before them flickered with static, the last remnants of a transmission that had ended just moments ago. No one spoke. No one moved. They had all seen it. They had all heard the words that would haunt them forever. It had come from the wreckage of a human warship, floating lifelessly in the cold abyss of space. The vessel had been presumed destroyed, a relic of an old battle, long forgotten. But before its systems had finally gone dark, before its broken body had been lost to the void, it had sent one final message. And what it revealed had shattered everything the Council thought they knew. The discovery of the derelict human warship had been treated as a scientific breakthrough at first. A rare opportunity to study the technology of a species feared for its ruthless efficiency in war. The researchers had expected to find primitive systems, crude designs, something they could analyze and understand. But from the moment they had accessed the ship's core, something had felt wrong. There had been no distress beacons, no emergency signals. The ship had not been searching for help. It had been waiting. And when the researchers activated its data logs, it had responded with something far more terrifying than any distress call. The message had not been in any known galactic language, but the humans had ensured it would be understood by all. The transmission had begun with static, then a flickering image. A human stood at the center of the screen, his face grim, his uniform torn and bloodied. Behind him, his ship burned. Fires raged through shattered corridors, sparks fell like dying stars, and warning sirens screamed in the distance. He was alone, the last survivor. His voice, calm yet heavy with exhaustion, cut through the silence. To whoever finds this, if you are seeing this, then we are gone. But listen well. We were not defeated. We were not weak. We fought. And we made them pay. The image flickered, and for a brief moment another scene replaced it. A battlefield in space. Human ships, outnumbered and surrounded, launching everything they had at an overwhelming enemy force. The footage was raw, taken from the ship's security feeds. Explosions lit up the void. The wreckage of both human and alien vessels drifted through the blackness, torn apart by the relentless conflict. The battle had been brutal, merciless. And yet, the humans had fought to the last. They had not surrendered. They had not begged for mercy. They had fought until there was nothing left to fight with. The screen flickered again, and the lone survivor reappeared. His breaths were shallow now, his strength fading. Smoke curled around him, the ship groaning as its final moments neared. We sent out warnings. You didn't listen. We told you never push us. Never force us into war. Because when we fight, we do not stop. We do not kneel. We do not break. You came for us thinking we were weak. Thinking we were just another species to be conquered. But now you know the truth. The transmission cut to another scene, one that made every member of the council shudder. It showed the enemy fleet, the ones who had attacked the humans, now nothing more than smoldering wreckage. A fleet powerful enough to destroy planets had been erased from existence. The humans had ensured that if they were to fall, they would take their enemies with them. The survivor coughed, blood staining his lips. The fires grew closer. His time was running out, but his gaze remained steady. His final words came with an eerie calm. You will remember us. Not as victims. Not as prey. But as the ones who refused to die quietly. And if you ever come for our people again, if you ever bring war to our worlds, you will learn the true meaning of fear. The transmission ended. The screen went black. And for a long time, no one spoke. The Galactic Council had studied many species, fought countless wars, witnessed entire civilizations rise and fall. But never had they encountered anything like this. The humans were not the strongest, nor the most technologically advanced, but they were something far worse. They were survivors. Fighters who did not know how to surrender. Enemies who would rather burn the stars themselves than submit. And now, the Council had seen their warning, delivered not in threats, but in blood and fire. The silence in the control room was finally broken by the Supreme Chancellor's voice, quiet but filled with something close to fear. We should have listened. The first warning came too late. By the time the Galactic Council received the distress signals, the skies above the border colonies had already turned black with the arrival of something they had never seen before, a human war fleet. For years, the Council had watched humanity from a distance, treating them as nothing more than a minor species, one that had no place among the greater civilizations of the galaxy. Their planets were small, their technology crude, their numbers insignificant. And yet, when war had finally come, it was not the humans who trembled in fear. It was the Council itself. The attack had begun without ceremony. There had been no grand declaration of war, no formal announcement, no warning. One moment, the Council's ships patrolled the skies over their colonies. The next, those same skies were filled with burning wreckage. The humans did not arrive with diplomacy. They arrived with fire and destruction. Their warships moved in coordinated precision, cutting through the Council's defenses as if they were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The outer defense platforms, the ones that had stood firm for centuries, crumbled within minutes. Every attempt at resistance was met with overwhelming force. The Council had believed themselves untouchable, their fleets powerful beyond measure. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated the fury of mankind. On the surface of Velith Prime, one of the Council's most fortified worlds, Commander Arkson stood frozen, his eyes locked onto the sky above. It was no longer the bright expanse he had known, no longer the peaceful view that had once filled him with pride. Now, it was dark, filled with the monstrous silhouettes of human warships. The light of the twin suns barely touched the surface anymore, blocked by the sheer number of vessels hanging in orbit. A chill ran through him, one that had nothing to do with the temperature. This was not a battle. This was not a war. This was retribution. Arkson had heard the stories, the rumors that spread like wildfire through the highest levels of the council. The humans had been wronged. Their ships had been attacked without cause, their colonies raided under the belief that they were too weak to respond. The council had dismissed the incidents, considering humanity too insignificant to retaliate. But they had been wrong. The humans had not forgotten. They had not forgiven. And now they had come to remind the council of their mistake. The ground trembled as the first orbital bombardments began. Explosions ripped through the city, turning once proud structures into little more than piles of rubble. The defenses that had been built to withstand entire fleets crumbled under the relentless assault. Human war machines descended from the skies, their weapons tearing through everything in their path. And still, the enemy ships above remained unmoving, their mere presence suffocating the world below. The sky had darkened, and it would not brighten again. Desperate transmissions flooded the airwaves. Pleas for mercy. Cries for surrender. But the humans did not respond. There was no negotiation, no discussion. The only answer they gave was the roar of their cannons, the fire that consumed every outpost, every stronghold, every last trace of resistance. The council had always believed in strategic retreats, in diplomacy, in battles fought with controlled precision. But the humans did not fight like any species the galaxy had ever known. They fought with an intensity that defied reason, an unyielding force that seemed driven by something far more powerful than just strategy. They fought with vengeance. As the hours passed, it became clear that there would be no reinforcements, no rescue. The council's fleets, once thought to be unmatched, had been shattered in the initial assault. The messages from other worlds told the same story, planet after planet falling into ruin, their skies darkened by human warships, their leaders begging for mercy that would never come. Arkson clenched his fists, his mind racing for a way out, for any plan that could save what little remained. But there was no escape. The humans had planned for everything. Every route had been blocked. Every last hope had been crushed. And still, the sky remained dark, a silent reminder of what had been unleashed. Then the final transmission came. Not from the council. Not from any remaining defense forces. It came from them. A simple message broadcast across all frequencies. A voice, calm yet cold, spoken in perfect galactic standard. You thought we were weak. You thought we were prey. But now you understand the truth. The sky darkens not with your victory, but with your downfall. This is not war. This is the price of your arrogance. And with that, the transmission ended. There was nothing more to be said. The humans had spoken their last words. Now, all that remained was the consequences.